All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is obviously a pretty important occasion for a lot of people. For some of you that are joining here today, you've obviously been down the path of purchasing property in the past. For others, it could be your first time. This is part of our ongoing series that we're running, a live stream every fortnight, just to connect with our clients and with our specialists that are within our network. So in essence, it's a place where we want you to come with an open mind, being able to learn exactly what it is that's important for yourself to know, what it is that you need to be able to be an astute property investor or home buyer out in the market. As I can see, a lot of the people that are on here today, you guys obviously have varied backgrounds in terms of what it is that you guys offer. Over the next hour and a half, we are going to be going through a bit of a journey together and connecting it all. The greatest part of it all is I've been to a lot of these sort of events before, and it's just one person talking like I am right now, and it's just their point of view. What I'd love for you guys to do is to write down questions to share them at the end. So throughout the presentation, there could be some mild interaction if you want. Chuck some comments into the chat. Otherwise, we'll save all the questions for the end, where we'll have a full 30 minutes of an open discussion forum. So it gives you an opportunity, everyone to talk and to discuss. So everyone's got something to share. So we're definitely looking forward to all of that sort of thing. So with regards to the day, so I want to give you guys a bit of a background. So I guess over the last 3 months in particular, it's been a really interesting period of time, especially out in the property market, and we've seen it, and we're definitely not immune to it all. But what we are obviously proud of the fact is that we've been able to bring this sort of information we're about to learn about to a wider scale to our clientele who have actually used this information to really put themselves ahead. So we're really proud of that. I guess with regards to where we're going with it all, there's some changes that have happened out in the market. The marketplace itself is, I guess with some grants that have been announced by the federal government to stimulate the economy. That's a big part of this. We do generally deal with the new home build space, but we do advise people in all regards with how they how they behave out in the market. So I guess where we're looking forward to is a really upward trajectory over the next 6 months, as the history will tell us. Now, I want just to see a show of hands. Who remembers the GFC that happened just over 10 years ago? Yep. All right. So where were you positioned over that period of time? And did you learn anything from it? And has that helped you with what's going on today? Because I guess the part that really scared me was the fact that the government could just flick a switch, but not just here in Australia, it was all around the world. But what did that mean? What does that mean for all of you? So in essence, how do we do that? We can only learn from the history. We don't have crystal balls, but we can look at statistics and understand what's happened in the past to try and predict what's going to happen in the future. For us, it's about creating wealth. If we can create wealth for everyone around, in essence, it means you can help you, your family, and the people within your own network. So for some people, wealth means the Ferraris, the double-story houses on the beach. For others, wealth just means I can pay the bills on time. I can send my kids to a private school. I'm not falling behind on my payments. That's to some people wealth. We're here to help everybody achieve what they would call financial freedom. So in terms of some of the speakers we have here today, they obviously have a varied background in terms of where they've come from. Chris Tagala in particular, who was my partner as of Friday, is now my fiance. So that was a great achievement that happened on her birthday. And she's here to talk to you about the property market, to talk about some of the changes that are happening and what to look for, what to look forward to, and how combating the information that you've got in front of you and how it can help you setting yourself up for the future. We also have Stephanie from My Mortgage Freedom now. Stephanie, she's been obviously in the game for about 10 years now, helping people with their finances. Absolutely loves it. She's really passionate with what she does, and I'll give you a bit more of an intro when she comes on with her presentation. Really powerful stuff. She's also here to answer a lot of your questions and also to raise a few things for you. So without further ado, I will flick it over to lovely Marie-Chris Tagala. If you guys don't mind giving her a round of applause.
Thanks, Boris. Hi, everyone. Really great to see you all here joining our webinar. As Boris said, we're doing this every fortnight because we want to be educating our clients, not just saying, okay, this is what you should buy, and not really understanding why you're buying it. You really need to understand how it's going to affect you, not just today and how you're feeling today, but looking at the future, because this grant that's come out has really, it's a really great opportunity for first home buyers. It's a really great opportunity for even buyers who are buying a new home to live in. You're also have access to that 25,000, and the government is throwing free money at us, and that's going to change the economy. And it's really good to people long term if we purchase properly. It's really, that is really the key, how to buy at the start the best way, because a lot of people will take an opportunity and say, this is awesome, I've got an opportunity, I'm gonna use this grant that the government takes, and they actually don't buy the right place, or they buy the wrong time and all those things, and it actually doesn't change their whole future. And what we want to do is not just secure a property for you now as a first home buyer, but we want to be able to pay off that debt as soon as possible so that you can go on to living your life and having that security that all of us are thriving for. So we're going to go through that a little bit tonight, and I'm going to switch to my slides if I can work it out. But like Boris said, this is going to be fully interactive webinar. We don't want it to be me just talking. If you do have questions, please put it in the chat box down below, or raise your hand or do something to get Boris's attention, because he'll be running the back end stuff, and he'll stop me and I can answer it if you do have questions along the way as we go through my slides. So I'm going to share my screen now. So like Boris mentioned, we are in the space of property investing. So prior to this grant, we probably sold about 80% of our property as to investors. And that's why investors that are wanting to pay down their house as soon as possible, that's our space, that's our expertise, that's where we thrive in. I love research, that stuff makes me excited. A lot of people don't love research, but I do. Where property prices are growing, how to look out for areas that are going to grow, so that right now you might buy a property for 500,000, and in say 5 years time it might be worth 750. We've already made a 250 worth of equity straight away, and that's you just living in it. So we want to maximize the market, and I'll explain how that happens, how a property one day could be worth 500,000 and then in a few years time it's worth 50% more. So we'll go through that a little bit so that that is clear with everyone. Oops. All right. So in our last webinar, if you guys were in attendance or if you got the recording, we did talk about the current market and how COVID has changed the economy. It's not a secret. Obviously, we all know we've been living this last 4 months together. We know the hype and the panic that's come about this pandemic. So what we were saying in the last webinar 2 weeks ago is that we're going to start seeing ease in September. We're going to start seeing the economy ease, because businesses are going to start reopening, and people will start getting their jobs back and all those things, and people will start spending because of the stimuluses that the government is putting forward. However, what we're seeing is it's already happening right now. And that really started from the time that the government released this grant, and that was just under 2 weeks ago. They released the 25,000 stimulus to all new home buyers if you are going to purchase it to live in. But the government did a really smart thing and put a deadline to it. So the deadline is but the 31st of December, and we'll talk about all the rules and, things around that deadline, what that means for you as a home buyer. They did that because they want people to, there's going to be a lot of urgency in the market. People are just going to make a decision. They're not going to think about it because they're not going to be around giving free money away to everyone, but they really want to stimulate the economy as quickly as possible. So what's going to happen is people are going to panic. I need to get in the market. Let's get in. Let's get the 25,000, and it just creates hundreds of thousands of jobs, which will kickstart our economy once again. So it's already happening. We're already seeing this as a business. The market is picking up. We also have rental properties. We rent properties, and in an area like Clyde North, I'm not sure if any of you guys know Clyde North. It's about 50K out of southeast, out of the Melbourne CBD. We've got a property there that was going to be on rent. The vacancy rates there are quite high, so that what that means is there's a lot of houses in that area that are vacant, and that's due to the current market, the current climate of COVID happening. The vacancy rates are around that 4.5%, which is higher than average because our average in Melbourne, a healthy average in Melbourne is 3%. However, even though it's so high, in that particular area in Clyde North, we rented that property out within 1 week. And we had 5 applicants and 20 people come through it. 20 groups say that they were interested. So that just shows like we're in the market. We're actually here every single day. We're seeing buyers. We're seeing the vibe from people, even renters. And, you know, it seems like people still need a home to live in. So whether there's a pandemic or not, bricks and mortar and straightforward homes, you're never really, there's never going to be a reason not to have one because it's just everyone needs a place to live. Also, what we're finding is because of this government grant that's come out, titled land is going really quickly too. And I don't know if many of you had a look at titled land last year. Last year, there was so much titled land, which is so different to what was happening maybe, call it 3 years ago when it was so hard to get titled land. You would wait. I remember selling in areas like Berwick, Keysborough. You would put a deposit down for a titled block of land or for a block of land, and it wouldn't title for 2 to 3 years. So it's a great opportunity right now that there's plenty of titled land for the moment. There's plenty of titled land for the moment, and that's going to change as people come into the market. So right now there's plenty, but we don't know how long that's going to last for. And I'll talk a little bit about titled land later on because this is the key to getting that 25,000. You can't actually get that titled land if you're not you can't get the 25,000 without getting the without having titled land, because you must build on it as soon as possible. You can't buy the block of land and then hold and wait. So that is so crucial that you get a block that's titled, or else you can't actually benefit from these grants. And it is running out. So we actually spoke to someone a couple of days ago, what they're actually doing. Some people are doing this too. And I remember I've done this in the past. You sign the contracts for the titled land. You sign the contracts for a block of land. You put a 5% deposit down, which is normally what the minimum is. And then you sell it as a nomination. So you don't actually build on it. You might sell it later down the track. And that actually increases the prices because people will be desperate for titled land. As the blocks are running out, they'll get more and more desperate for them, and they'll pay, 10,000, 20,000 extra just to secure that titled block of land towards the end of the year. So if you want to know about that a little bit more, feel free to ask questions even now or at the end of the webinar. I'll get into that a bit deeper if I've gone a bit fast, but I just got a lot of content to go through tonight. I'm just going to make sure that we're all on mute. One moment. Okay. I don't know if I can actually check, but everybody can still hear me. Everyone's still awake? Just wave. Everyone can still hear me? Yep, good, awesome. So I'll go through that a little bit more in detail if you like at the end of the webinar. So why is there some activity in the market? And that's just purely because the government's throwing money at people and there's free money going around. So people are getting excited. There's a lot of people that couldn't purchase a home in the past because the hardest thing to buying your first home is saving up for the deposit. And to save up 30,000, even at 5%, saving up 30,000 isn't an easy thing to do, especially when you've got bills to pay. If you've got children, it's so much harder to save 30,000 these days. So you might be able to service the loan, like you might be able to pay for the loan every month, your mortgage every month, but the banks still want you to give that 5%. And that's where this is such an exciting time where you can effectively purchase a property without even having a deposit. So we'll go through that a little bit more. So that's what I basically said. First home buyers can buy a property with no money down, just utilizing the 35,000 that you get as a full in Metro Melbourne as a grant from the state and federal government. Okay, so back to this. So basically no money down, but that's what we were talking about. You basically can buy a property. This is the first time you can basically buy a property with no deposit. And this is what we really are looking for a first home buyer. These are the prerequisites. So when this grant came about, there was a lot of, because it's new and the government basically decided overnight how they were going to treat this grant. A lot of they sort of just said, okay, we'll give you 25,000, and then they worked out how things were going to work later on. So they basically had massive and immediate action. They just said, yes, we're going to do the grant, but then they had to iron out a lot of the details. And in the last few weeks, we've been ironing out those details, and we've been finding out more information on who's eligible and who's not. And that's where this has come in. And that's why we've wanted to actually create a webinar about this, so everyone's crystal clear on how it actually all works. So first things first, unfortunately, to all the Kiwis, it is only available for Australian citizens. You know, I've had a lot of people, you know, say it's not fair and how come permanent residents aren't able to get it. I feel your pain. It is unfair, but I guess the way that the Australian government is looking at it is they want to stimulate Australian economy. They want to make sure that whoever is benefiting from this grant is going to be staying here, going to be working here, going to be contributing to Australia itself. And that's why they've done that. So the 25,000 is just available to Australian citizens. However, that 10,000 state government, if you are a first home buyer, but you are a Kiwi, you're a New Zealand citizen, you will be eligible for the 10,000 grant plus zero stamp duty under 600. So that's something to look at, and it's something that you can talk to us about later down the track if you did want to have a conversation with us. But that is a key factor. And now I did have other questions come to me from people, different clients saying, well, what if I'm Australian citizen, but my partner's not? How does that all work? Unfortunately, if one of you aren't an Australian citizen, the loan has to purely go under the name of the Australian citizen. You can't really, we've had some discussions about, you know, with other mortgage brokers. I mean, we had a discussion with a mortgage broker yesterday that says there might be some ways around it. Again, I'm not the expert. Stephanie can talk about it a little bit more later in terms of the finance of it. If you are in this situation, please reach out to us at the end and maybe we could do something about it. But for now, the black and white is, if you're Australian citizens, you can get it. If you're not, you can't. And if you're in a partnership, it has to go under the Australian citizen's name, and that they have to be able to service the property. So their income has to be enough to service the property without the other person involved. The other things that we like to put on is that you're working full-time for 6 months in the same place, and full-time wages. You got consistent salary. The other thing that is really beneficial is if you've been renting a home for the last 12 months, even though with this grant, even though you don't have to pay a deposit, right? So you don't have to save up the 5% deposit. What the bank is going to want to see is that you can still pay your bills. They want you to prove that you can still pay the mortgage. So they want to put you in a house, but you're not going to be not paying the mortgage every month. So one way that you can prove that you will be paying the mortgage every month is that if you're paying a rent for a home. So if you've got a lease that's under your name, that can equate to 5% savings. So it means that if you're, and work it out, your house is going to be 500,000. You're going to, let me just get my calculator out. I'm not great with math. So you need to show that you've been paying $25,000 worth of rent for that year. And you would need some kind of property management invoice to show the bank that that's you've been paying it consistently and on time. And that actually equates to 5% savings. So you don't have to provide a deposit, because you can utilize the 35, but they still do want to see that you're consistent in paying off rent of some sort. And it needs to equate to 5% of what you're borrowing. I also like to tell my clients that if you've got credit cards, and Stephanie can talk about this a lot more later on, because she's the expert, we're more property. This is just something that we go through with our clients, is if you've got a credit card, you're not using it. It doesn't even if I've got a credit card of 3 credit cards, and they're all say $3,000 limits, and you've got 500 here, 500 there, 500 there that you've used. Consolidate that, get a credit card that you can do the 12 months interest free on a credit card, and get rid of that and minimize the actual limit on those credit cards. Because even though you've got a card that's only say $1,500 that you've got on that credit card, they're going to look at it as if because you've got access to the 9,000, 3 different cards, they're going to look at it as if you've got a debt of 9,000. So in a space like this, when you're going for the loan, the less credit cards that you have, the better you're going to be. And the same with personal loans and card loans. We like to minimize that if we can. So as a first home buyer, what can I buy? Is only applicable to new home builds. So that $25,000, it can only be for new home builds. So if you want to buy a secondhand property, it's not going to work for this grant. Land should be titled, and the reason why land should be titled, and when I say land should be titled, I'm not sure if everybody understands that. It means that it's ready, the land is ready to build on. A lot of the time, developers will go to council and they will get the permits done for an estate. So if you've been to new estates, they'll get the planning permits done for an estate, but the actual land's not ready to be built. The roads haven't been put in, the electricity, all of the cable work haven't been put in. So it's actually not ready to live in that space. You can't actually build there yet. And there's a lot of land like that in Melbourne that's not titled. So they've already got planning permits on them. They're already being sold in the market, but you're not able to build on them. You have to have titled land, because for you to get this $25,000, you must construct the property within 3 months of signing the contracts. So if it's titled now, you can basically settle on the land, and then from 3 months from now, you can start building. So it's really urgent to get all of your ducks in the row, because the build process does take time, and you just need to make sure that you're in this side of 2020 and it doesn't lapse into 2021. Now, this is something that is a little bit, there's a lot of uncertainty about this next thing I'm going to talk about, is when does the $25,000 come to the purchaser? Because with the state government, because obviously you don't, like the $25,000 you're going to use as a deposit, right? And the $10,000 you're going to use as a deposit. So effectively you have 35,000. The 10,000 comes straight away, but as much as soon as, I think, and Stephanie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it pretty much comes straight away. You can finance, you get that 10,000, you've got access to it, so you can start financing the land and the build. But what I've heard, and this isn't confirmed yet because there's a lot of, the money hasn't actually been released to anyone yet. It's still being in the process. But what I've heard is that 25,000 only comes at the second stage of the build, not at the beginning. So you basically have to finance the land because you have to buy the land in order and settle on it in order to build on it. Then you would have to finance 5% of the build contract. And then you only get that 25,000 at second stage of the build, which is normally when they do the slab, which is the second payment of the build. Like I said, there's a asterisk there because we're not even sure of when they are going to do this. They might change it and say, actually, no, we will release the 25,000 from the beginning. The way that some people are getting around this is if they don't have the cash, some mortgage brokers are putting the client on a personal loan to just get the funds in and then paying that loan off as soon as the funds hit. So there's, again, other ways of doing it. Stephanie can talk about it a little bit more. And based on your situation, if you want to touch base with us at the end of this webinar, obviously we can look at your situation in detail. All right. So what do I buy? So obviously new home build. Oh, no, I've already done this. So this is a slide that I love to talk about because I have a lot of clients, a lot of friends who are looking to get into the market, and they're looking and they're thinking, I want my first home. It's a dream of mine to own a home. And there's so much emotions attached to it because buying a property and your home is such a intimate thing of your life. You want to feel comfortable there. You want to feel like it's around all the things that you like. You want to feel like when you come home, you're happy about it and all these things. So it's very emotional. And especially if you've been renting and you've got all these restrictions from your landlord, or all those things that happen with your landlord. When it comes to buying your first home, there's a ton of emotions that come to play because of all those things. So maybe you've been dreaming about owning your own home for a long time, all these factors. And this is where a lot of people, and I'm going to just say it bluntly as possible, stuff up. They just stuff up because they buy the wrong thing. They buy something that isn't going to grow in value, and they're going to be working for this home loan. So even though you're not paying rent and you're paying off a loan instead of paying your landlord's loan, you're going to be paying it for the next 30 years. And a lot of people are buying property that aren't actually buying it for growth. So, and some people are buying property in their 40s. So if you're going to be buying a property in your 40s and you're taking out a 30-year loan and you're not actually having a plan to pay that loan off, for me, that freaks me out. That's really scary. I bought my first property when I was 21 years old. I was with an ex-partner, obviously not Boris, but I remember very clearly that I bought this house. I signed the contracts. It was my first home. Signed the contracts, moved in. It was like the perfect quotation mark home, what society said that I should buy. It was double story, all these things. I remember sitting on the staircase and freaking out because I had this 30-year prison, like basically a prison that I had to live for this house, that I had to go in every day to work to pay off this loan. And I had a sense of panic because I was like, how on earth am I going to pay this? And back then, my first home was 250,000. You could you'll be lucky to buy a block of land now for 250,000. So that being said, you know, that's why it forced me to have a look out there. How can I actually make the right purchase so that I'm not working for my house, but my house is working for me, so that I'm not going to be taking 30 years to pay off this loan and taking, rather than 30 years, you doing it in 10. And there's a lot of advertising out there in media and all that stuff, pay off your home loan in 10 years time. Well, this is how they basically do it. And we're going to go through a lot about that now, because the first home is effectively the most important one to buy, because that's the one that's the hardest to buy the deposit. Once you buy the first one and you buy right, you buy in a really good area that's going to grow 20%, 30% a year, you've made the equity already, and then you can basically buy another home with the equity that you've achieved from that first home, and then you can keep on buying until it's ready to sell them off and pay off the first original house. So we'll go through that a little bit more. So, I mean, this is a perfect example of what Boris said. I really love this slide because Boris talked about it a lot earlier on too. What happened in the GFC back in 2010, GFC hit. 2011, I bought 3 properties in 1 year. I was a bit crazy. Then everybody came in 2011. I was one of those people. 2012 to 2017, Melbourne prices actually went up nearly 80%. So if you bought in that time, even if you bought in 2011, you are pretty much nearly doubling your money in 5 years' time. I feel that that's what's going to happen again, because you know, when the government starts throwing free money out at people, they start getting excited and start, you know, feeling overconfident of what they can actually purchase. And that's why it drives the property prices up. So, and this is why this is important. Like, either you pay in time or you pay in money. So there's a picture here of a couple looking like a, you know, young, good looking couple and all that stuff, living the life. It looks like an apartment, living in a new area, in an area that's probably nice area that has a lot of amenities. Or you could purchase a house in the outer suburbs of Melbourne. That's probably not the sexiest thing, obviously. But I had a client that I was actually just talking to today. I took her out because she's looking to buy some more investment properties. But she actually bought a unit back in 2008 when the GFC happened, and she purchased it for $380,000. Right now, if she was to sell that apartment, and it's been in the market for 12 years, if she was to sell that apartment, she would be lucky to get $400,000. So yeah, sure, she had the great lifestyle. She was next to the shops and all that stuff. But it actually hasn't grown in value at all, that apartment. And because it hasn't grown in value, she has had her money stuck there, and she's still paying off her debt for her other house. And she's had to actually save up another deposit for her house that she's living in now. So that's a prime example of either you pay in time or you pay in money, or you pay. So the way I like to see it is you buy where it's going to grow, and then you either leave that property once it's grown and then rent somewhere you like better, but you really buy where it's going to grow, because that's the power of property. So capital growth strength of property. So this is just a really quick slide. I always show this slide to in our webinars. This is based on Melbourne. So the red line is Melbourne, the black line is Sydney. Let's focus on Melbourne because Melbourne's the better city. In 2010, it just shows that that's how the prices have been going up. And that's just 2010, that it was just over 500,000 for a medium house price in Melbourne. Now in January 2020, that medium house price is 900,000 in Melbourne. So what that means is they basically get all of the houses in Melbourne divided by the number of sales that have happened, and that's why they get the 900,000. So I always suggest to people, obviously buy under the medium house price, and that's why the government's got this stimulus saying that if you buy up to 600, you don't pay stamp duty. I think 600 is the sweet spot. Anything 500 to 600 is a good purchase. at this market, and you'll see growth, because if the median house price is already at 900 in Melbourne, it's just, there's only one way up, which is up. There's only one way, and it's up, because it's so below the median house price, and it's all about affordability. People are going to want an affordable house to live in, and they'll pay extra to be in it. So this is why property prices get driven. It's all about population. Right now, 2019, just last year, we're sitting on just under 25 million. Look, obviously, COVID's happened, the migration has stopped, but I really feel that as soon as COVID, things start calming down, especially at the end of this year, and the numbers start lowering, I really feel that the Australian government will open our borders again to migrants. And this is the key thing, and this is how I think we live in the best country in the world. The fact that we did not get affected by COVID that much, and when I say that much, is that we didn't have that many cases and we didn't have that many deaths. And a lot of other countries in the world did, like America, Europe, all those things. Like New York had a ton of people that passed away, all that stuff. So people are going to start thinking that, and Australia had a really good run. It's going to start looking really attractive to people to come migrate here as soon as this stuff has happened. And, especially with all of the politics that's going on in America, all of the stuff that's going on in the world, Australia is almost oblivious to a lot of this drama. So I think that's going to be a key point for people wanting to migrate here. And that the more people that come, the more houses we're going to need, the more house prices are going to go up. That's just the simple economics of it all. Okay, so this is how a really quick snapshot of how people paid off their house in 10 years. And I'm just going to do a little demonstration so you understand why the first home is so important for you to set up your life. So this is a portfolio strategy that we use all the time. So you have your primary place of residence, or your PPR. This is the first home that you would buy. You save up to buy a deposit for that. You prove yourself to the bank, you prove yourself to lenders, all that stuff, you get this home. Then this house price increases, whether it increases in the first year or the next 5 years. It depends on the area. It depends on, how much population is increasing in the area too. So that increases. Once that property increases, we draw out the money out of the PPR, which is the primary place of residence, draw out the equity out of that. If you bought it for 500 and it's worth 600, you draw out as much as you can out of that, and you buy the second property, which is the first investment property. And then it's pretty much rinse and repeat. That property goes up, and then draw out the equity, you buy the third property. And then it's pretty much as many as you want to go to. So one gives birth to many is the whole idea. And this is why I can't stress enough why the first property is so important to setting up your whole strategy. Because if the first property is in a good area that's going to grow, it's going to be quicker to purchase the other properties. And then basically what we want to do is I don't actually have a slide for it. What we want to do is we want to sell off, say, as many properties as we want. We might sell all, how many have I got pictured there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We might sell all of those 10 and then pay off the primary place of residence. And that's how we're getting the market to work for us rather than us working for the market. And that's how people are paying off their loans a lot quicker than the 30 years. They're doing it in 10 or less than 10, depending on how aggressive you want to be with your investing. But that's in simple terms. I know a lot of my clients have done that. I've got clients that only have, say, 3 properties, that live in one property, have 2 properties paid off, and they use those 2 properties that have been paid off as an income. So they collect an income from it. So they don't actually have to work, and they're able to retire earlier. But there's so much power in property. But the key is you have to buy right the first one. If you don't buy right, you're going to be living for that property for the next 30 years. You're going to be sitting there paying that loan, paying that mortgage off. Yeah, you're not paying the landlord, but you're paying the bank the interest for that property. Unless you're smart about it and you think about long term, how am I going to better my situation? And that's why, you know, we always look at developing estates, because we always find in those developing estates, it's almost like you're buying at a wholesale rate. You're buying when there's nothing there. And then when things start coming in, that's when the property prices are up, because people want to actually live there. When there's cafes, when there's restaurants, all that stuff, people want to live there. And that's when property prices go up. So that's our strategy that we like to give to our clients. So just nearly finished, but with the case studies, this is one example that just happened this month. We had a client that had an owner-occupied house. They have a house. They purchased, but they wanted to buy their first investment home. They could do that strategy that we talked about. They bought the block of land back in 2008. We built the house last year. The whole house and land package was $400,000. This is in Clyde North. We got it valued just a couple of weeks ago, and it just settled just a couple of weeks ago, and it's worth 510 at completion. So now they're using that equity, so the cash that they've made in that house already, to buy another one. So we're already looking for another one for them. So that's a client that, you know, first investment property, so that, and their whole goal is so that they can pay off their main house, so that they, if they want to work, or if one of them wants to stop working, they can. They've got a lot more options rather than being a slave to the system. Another client, you know, he's a little bit more aggressive with his property purchases. He's got 12 properties. He's set to retire in 2 years at the age of 50. He has 2 kids, so he's set for life. He's got 12 properties, nearly, and he can sell, you know, 4 of those properties, pay off the other debt, and he's living on those properties. Another client I've helped retired with only 4 properties. Also had investments in shares too. He lives on about $7,000 per month, debt-free, and his daughter doesn't have to work anymore for the rest of her life, because if nothing changes in their portfolio, she'll get this income of $7,000 when he passes and all that stuff. So the whole key point is just let yourself dream. It's possible if you're getting the right advice, and that's why we're so big on education. That's why we like to give feedback back to people, because it's so important to be able to let yourself dream and then find a way to achieve that goal in bite size. Because obviously if you have a big goal, you have to break it down to little bite size, and that's what we're here for. And we've got a team that helps basically achieve that. I think that's it. So I am gonna switch back to Boris if I can. So I'll exit.
Look, a few key takeaways there. I think with what Marie-Chris was saying, it's probably really important to understand that if we're looking at buying property in today's market, what is it that we're looking at doing from that? Because how many people do you hear of? And there is a question that's going to be asked, which is Kate, who asked it earlier about apartments. If we're buying a property today, how's that going to set us up for the future? Because for some people, they're better off just renting, really. If you're buying a property and it loses your money or it doesn't grow, that is not helping your future. So that's where, in this case, where a government grant coming in can help you with getting into a new property, but buying it right and buying it for the right price. That is where you make your most amount of money. Because while we wait for the market to grow, that's going to be a number of years. But if you can buy it right at the beginning, you can start your investment property journey a lot sooner. So I take away something really important from that. Something else that I wanted to add in there was, Marie-Chris touched on how through COVID, it was a really important time to understand around the world, people are looking at numbers, and numbers are really important to understand because, hang on, someone's just coming through, because, you know, you look at America or parts of Europe, parts of Asia, where there's been heavily affected by, you know, health issues. And you look at the numbers of Australia and the numbers are so low. That there is our trigger for why we believe that over a number of years, once immigration bans are lifted and people can come in the country, that we're going to look really attractive for people to want to move here. It means that Melbourne's just going to get more spread out. Now, not just Melbourne, but any part of any major city, but mainly Melbourne and Sydney. What we're looking at right now, and this is something that I've been doing a little bit of research on, is, and I was actually having a conversation about this earlier today with Tim, who's on here today, but in essence, we're understanding what are people's habits and looking at buying property and living in a space that you love. COVID's really highlighted something important, and this is might ring true for some of you already. What's the most popular type of living arrangement at the moment is living in rent close to the city, because we know that because they're just stacked on top of each other. When the government flicked the switch and they said stay at home, what's happened is people are now not able to just walk down to the cafe or go meet their friends at the bar. They're actually cooped up in a tiny little apartment. So what they're now thinking is, well, before, and this is actually something that I personally can attest to, is why would I want to live out in the outer suburbs when it's a half an hour drive into the city, or it's not a desirable location? But living in an apartment in the city, which has been something of popularity lately, doesn't actually earn you any money. And I'll go back to the fact that the greatest way to earn money right now that we believe is through property. Not only, but through property is one of them. Because how many times can you just knock on the door of your manager and say, hey, listen, can I have a $50,000 pay rise this year? And they're going to look at you and say, no, thanks. But in property, you can do that. If you buy it right, you can actually earn yourself $50,000 extra. And that's something that we go through our some of our other workshops that we run. But in essence, to go back on it, was people are looking at their living quarters and they're looking at where can they move to? Where is it that is going to be comfortable, that they can have pets in their home, have a yard, be still close by to shops, still be close by to family. Even a lot of them come from the suburbs to live in the city. So for us, that's part of that population boom, but more so in the outer suburbs. So I thought I'd just share that with a few of you, thinking about where can I buy, and government's got restrictions on how much you can spend. Well, in actual fact, you probably are looking at where everyone else is going to want to be. And I will say this for a fact: titled land, which is another thing Mary Chris was talking about. Titled land has been snapped up at the moment, and over the last few months there was a lot of interest but not a lot of buyers. Now there's a lot of buyers, so it's just become a really interesting time where land has been released, so a lot more of it available, but all the best stuff goes quicker. So I thought I'd just share that, and we'll delve into that, and there'll be something else we'll talk about at a later stage. So I think Mary Chris
I'll just answer some questions, because there's a few that came in privately. So there was one that was, can I purchase an apartment off the plan that hasn't commenced building? And the answer and will you be eligible for the 25,000? And unfortunately the answer is no. And the reason why they want to do that is because, and that's why it's so important to get land, because they want you to start building the house within 3 months of signing the contract, and then you've actually still got a window of that completion of build, because they want to be the general economy right now. So in an apartment situation, it takes a couple of years to build an apartment block. So it gets spread out through a couple of years. So it's not actually just creating jobs right now, an instant gratification with jobs. So unfortunately, no, it doesn't apply to apartments. It's mostly for house and land, maybe townhouses that have already started construction, but will be finishing in the next, say, 3 months or so. That's what we're looking at. I'll bring it back to you, Boris.
No, I appreciate that. So look, that's just a bit of information about the property market. This is something that we expand on each time, and we invite everyone to be part of a Q&A at the end of it. Please have your questions ready, because this is a really powerful time. We've got some really awesome people who are part of this, and I really do encourage you to ask some questions regarding your own circumstances, whether there is something you've heard about, you want it to be dispelled amongst people. This isn't just the media telling you what they think you want to hear. This is actually, we're here to tell you about what's happening out in the real world. So leading into that, who is actually here today to help us understand what's happening out in the real world, without a doubt, when it comes to doing anything moving forward, you need money. Now that money's got to come from somewhere, and someone needs to be able to help you get it. So we surround ourselves with the experts who know exactly how to help you achieve your dreams, whether it's a an entry-level property, whether it's upgrading your home, whether it's buying an investment property. We need to make sure that we've got the right people around us. So with the next speaker coming up, named Stephanie, she's from My Mortgage Freedom. I did do a little introduction a bit earlier, but I'll give you a bit further information. She's been a mortgage broker now for 10 years. She absolutely loves what she does. She's had fantastic results, and she's here to spread, to share a little bit about her journey, and also to explain to you about what's required in today's market in order for you to be able to get into the market yourself. A lot of people that I can see here, and I'm really thankful, even though for the technical difficulties, a few people dropped off, but there's over 20 people now that are part of this. And for us, that's really important to know that there are people out there. It's a Wednesday night, you could be at home, or you could be out, you could be doing something. But look, today we're actually here learning something that can really benefit you for the future. But without that key indicator of money, we're not going to be able to have anything. And that's where Stephanie comes in. Look, she's got a dedicated financial team around her. So regardless of your circumstances, doesn't matter where you're at in terms of your journey, she's got the solutions for you. So I want to, without further ado, is to introduce Stephanie Corello from My Mortgage Freedom. Put your hands together for her if you can.
Thanks, Boris. Can you hear me? Everyone can hear me? Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being a part of a really great webinar. Boris, Mary, Chris, it's what you're doing is exactly where we like to sit, helping people find financial freedom. It's something we're certainly really passionate about. Tonight, I'm just going to give a really sort of good overview of what's happened, obviously, during COVID. And now that we're sort of seeing the end of it, I think it's really important to understand exactly where banks are sitting in terms of policy, and also what we're seeing as brokers, what's coming through, what's being accepted by banks, what's being declined, and I guess what their appetite is. If there is anything specific, like really specific to your situation, it's probably going to be best to have a phone conversation. But I guess general questions is something that we can certainly answer tonight. I've got a slideshow. We will send that out tomorrow as well. And let's start. I will share my screen if I can. Boris, do I need to be a host? Sorry, do you mind making me a host? Thank you. Okay, so let's get this market update up here. All right, can we all see that? Perfect. All right, let's get this going. So obviously, during COVID, I think it just hit everyone really quick. I don't think we all expected it to happen the way it happened, and lockups and all that sort of stuff. And I guess from a lending point of view, it hit them quick as well. We saw a lot of the business incentives, short-term loans, all of that come through super quickly. And I guess what we found was they just maybe weren't thought through enough. So it took us a little bit of time to find our feet during COVID, but we certainly have, and I feel like we are probably getting to the other side. So what we're saying is that lending is certainly starting to pick up again. Banks are still lending money. That is the bottom line. They're still lending money, and they still have an appetite for purchase, refinance, everything, equity releases. The major thing that's still happening is that policy continues to change daily. It's not uncommon for us to receive up to sort of 30 emails per day across all the banks with something new. It might be a policy change, it might be an application process change, it might be something really specific to an industry. So we are keeping updated with that daily. Certainly the appetite varies between lenders. We have some lenders who are really hungry for business, I guess. Rates are really low. They have the cash available. The market is certainly cooling off. So they certainly are wanting applications and wanting to lend money. Then we have some other lenders who are just so inundated with applications that they've sort of pumped the brakes on things. That's probably one of the main reasons as well, to always make sure that you've got a good broker backing you up. We as brokers obviously have access to close to 50 lenders, and although a bank might have a good rate, or it might have, a really good benefit that you think is a good benefit, the reality is that if they don't have an appetite for your loan, there's no point going to them. So that's a big thing. We are certainly seeing applications, full-time, part-time, casual, business, still going through, still working. Like I touched on before, not all of these incentives and recommendations have worked from the start. Talking more small business, which probably won't relate to a lot of you, but also the deferment of repayments. I think that's something that we can really chat about and just understand, if you did defer your loan repayments, what we need to do now to get you into a position that if we need to be borrowing money, refinancing, buying property, how the banks are going to do that. So that's a really important one. And then also, like Mary Chris touched on, the $25,000 home builder package. And that's a really important one, because from a lending point of view, it's we don't know a lot of information yet. So that's the overview for COVID. A big thing at the moment is bank turnaround times, SLAs. SLAs for some lenders are up to 25 business days. So what that means is, if we put an application in for a basic refinance of your home loan, that refinance will not settle for at least 2 months. So we need funds quickly. If we're releasing equity, to pay a deposit on your next property, some of these lenders are just not right for you. So lender turnaround times are super important, especially if we need the funds. That's a really big thing at the moment. Why are they pushing out? Look, a lot have offshore offices which shut down during COVID. Once these offices shut down, which is maybe their assessment centre or their document prep centre, it really affected, it was a really big effect on what's happening on this side of the business. So that's one reason. The other big reason are these cashback incentives. Now, banks offer incentives for refinances. So you refinance to them, obviously you can get a better rate, restructures of loans, equity release, but they'll also give you a cashback. When these cashbacks come up, banks get so inundated that it just slows everything. Accumulation of COVID, offshore offices closing down, and cashback incentives, some of these lenders who are at 25 days, they just can't keep up. That's another big thing about the turnaround times. And also policy changes, daily policy changes. Sometimes it just doesn't filter down correctly to the credit team, to the brokers, to risk team. So by the time we get our heads around exactly what's required of us for an application, it might be an extra document or a document that needs to be updated. That also pushes out turnaround times. So we're sort of getting to the end of those hurdles, especially during the end of COVID. But this is what's happening with banks, and choosing a bank for your specific situation can't just be about interest rate. It needs to be about why the bank is the best bank for you for that transaction. And I guess that's the best thing about a mortgage broker. We've got access to so many banks that we're just not going to choose a bank because they've got the best rate. Because if you need funds to pay for your deposit in 2 weeks' time, certainly a bank at 25 business days is not the bank for you. So we start weighing up all those things. So that's a really important thing at the moment, which we rarely see banks at 25 business days. So individual borrowers, obviously you saw a lot about loans being deferred. So lenders allowed you to defer your repayments up to 6 months. In not look, a lot of people took this up where maybe they shouldn't have because they could actually pay their home loan. And a lot of people needed it. So we certainly have two sides of the sword there. The interest is capitalised onto the end of the loan. So it's actually, you will have to pay more in the long term. So what we're looking at now is if you took that up, how we're going to get you back to being in a real positive so that future lending isn't affected. Like I said, after 6 months recalculated, the biggest thing we're saying to our clients is if you can pay your home loan, pay your home loan, even if it's the minimum, even if you have to cancel your Netflix or whatever during COVID, you know, everyone cut back on their going out. So if you could pay the minimum on your home loan, pay it because it's going to be better long term. Other strategies that we want, that we've always spoken to our clients about, and they're very good strategies, is looking at your property and looking at the equity position and looking at how we can use that and capitalize on that and actually get you into a better position even during COVID, which is such a, you know, like a strange time that everyone went through. The biggest things that we are doing and have been doing is refinancing, taking advantage of low interest rates. Low interest rates means lower repayments. Lower repayments means that you can actually, if you're just falling short, you can actually make your home loan repayments. We have fixed rates starting at 2.09%. I mean, we've never seen rates like this before. Generally, a lot of clients at the moment will be sitting at maybe the 3.3% mark. That's a massive savings in itself, from 3.3 to 2.09. You will be saving money each week on your repayment. So the refinance option might be better than taking the deferment. Switching to interest only, CBA have just announced the switch to interest only as literally a tick box on your net banking. So it's not an assessment, it's nothing like that. If you need to switch for a short period of time, you tick your box, you sign it, and they've switched your repayment. So that's a really good offer that CBA has brought out, and that was only brought out a few days ago. So like I said, policy, structure, everything changes all the time. Equity releasing funds just to cover any shortfall. I mean, if you've still got one full income and maybe half of the other income, equity release is a good way just to make sure you've got enough just to cover yourself and you won't need to take the deferment. Plus we have offers, the cashback offers of $4,000. They're always really good. So here is a case study, and this is an actual one that I did myself, of a refinance and equity release. Their home loan was $700K, decent home loan. It's going to have decent repayments. We kept their loan term at 26 years. This is very important for my mortgage freedom. We want to ensure that you're not paying more interest over the long term. So jumping your loan back up to 30 years would mean that you're actually paying more. We want to keep your loan term at exactly what you are now, because we don't want to add any more time. We don't want to add any more money for the bank to benefit from. We want the money in your pocket, and we want you to repay your home loan quick. We improved the interest rate by 0.5. We increased the loan by $30,000, and they ended up paying $11 less per month. That's a savings of $2,193 after the first year. That's nearly $30,000 over the life of your loan. They are the numbers. You cannot argue with those numbers. What we've done, we've got the client a better rate. We haven't added any interest, any deferment, nothing to the end of it. We've given them cash out and they're paying less per month. These are really positive client outcomes. And this is what we need to be doing in this time if you've got the ability to, as opposed to deferring payments, just listening to what the government's saying. These are the numbers. They don't lie. That's what they are. This also, like Marie-Chris was saying, is when you release equity, this is how the process works as well. If we increase that loan by $30K for the deposit on a new property, you're still saving money. So not only are you saving money on your first home, you're also releasing funds to buy the next property. And that will just keep continuing. So these are very good case study. JobKeeper and early access of super, really important still. Slowly everyone is going back to work. However, lots of people are still getting JobKeeper for a little bit more time anyway. Some lenders are accepting it. So that's really good news. They'll accept the JobKeeper income, not the previous income. So obviously the lower. And it is case by case. So obviously the application must be strong across board. So let's say one applicant's still full-time work, they've got the majority of the income. The second applicant has JobKeeper. We only need to use a little bit of it. The banks will still accept it. So there is a positive outcome again. We don't need to defer payments. We don't need to add more interest, more pain in the future. We can use income from JobKeeper. So really good stuff there. Again, policy changes all the time, but at the moment we've got quite a few lenders accepting it. You would have heard a lot of talk about the early access of super. A lot of people accessed their super when they maybe didn't need to and they were not in financial hardship. There's quite a fine line between what is considered hardship and not. So a lot of people actually access their super to use it as funds for deposits on new purchases. Some lenders will not accept this. They will deem this as financial hardship. It's very important that you speak to your accountant and you understand the ramifications and then speak to your mortgage broker before you do it. I had an application with CBA. The client took out their super because their friend did it and said, you do it. They took out the super. It got into their CBA account and CBA declined the application because they had no confidence that the client was not in financial hardship. So this is very important. The last couple of days, we've seen some lenders actually say, yep, we will accept it. So if this is something that you're thinking about, please speak to the professionals before you do anything. Put a plan in place. If you need it for a deposit, we need to find a bank who will accept it. So that's very important. We've had a few clients actually lose out because of they did something they thought was right. And in the end, for the banks, it wasn't right. So very important one. And like I said, some lenders are changing. It's a daily thing. So some lenders are accepting it. We just need to have the conversation before you click the button to get your super out. So the first home loan deposit scheme. So this is the one where you don't need to pay lender's mortgage insurance. You just need 5% of a deposit. At the moment, all allocations are exhausted. However, July 1st, we'll see a new wave be released. We are seeing some banks accept pre-filled spots. So when they do get released, we don't anticipate there being 100% of them available. However, it's a really good scheme. You don't need to pay lender's mortgage insurance, and it's something that would love you to not pay. And all you need is just your genuine savings of 5%. It can also be made up of rental history. And once you are pre-approved, you must purchase in 90 days. If you do not purchase in 90 days, you just need to simply get it sort of reapproved, so you save your spot. However, some banks are actually just cancelling out your spot, and then you have to go through the process again. So it's a really good option if you are very close to buying. It isn't something that's like a long-term thing because you've only got 90 days. So if you're really close to buying, we can get you in. 5% deposit, you don't need to pay lender's mortgage insurance, and you still get all the stamp duty reductions up to 600k. So it's a really good scheme. Now, this is the grant that Marie-Chris was talking about, the $25,000 home builder grant. Now, there's stuff that we do know, which is really important. So we're sort of halfway there. What we do know, the total value of the property in completion has to be less than $750. It applies to owner-occupied, not just first-home buyers. It's not available for investors. If they're renovating, the cost has to be more than 150 and the house has to be worth less than 1.5. Yeah. The income is really interesting. Singles must be on less than 125 and couples earning less than 200K. That's a really big one there. What we don't know, which is a really important bit, is banks have not yet given instructions on how this scheme will be incorporated into lending. We have zero information as to how we can factor this in to a loan. We are asking daily for updates. The banks just don't have enough information yet. They've not put together how it's going to look. We are waiting, and as soon as we find out how it's going to work, we are going to let you know. This is the biggest thing. We hear lots of whispers. Some people are saying, the State Revenue Office is going to reimburse the client. Others are saying it has to be factored into the fixed price building contract. We just don't know how it's going to look. I spoke to 3 lenders today in preparation for tonight, and all 3 lenders, 2 majors, 1 second tier, said no information yet. So we're still working through it. I think it's a great scheme if the banks come to play and we can actually get it to the right people at the right time and actually helping them fund renovations and home builds. So we don't know any more than that at the moment, which is a bit of a pity. But we think it's going to be a good scheme, and we do think it's going to help stimulate the economy, definitely. Yeah, it's very much a work in progress. So deferred loan repayments. If you have deferred your repayment, you will need to catch up at some point. What we are saying is to sit down with your financial advisors or your mortgage broker and really understand what the arrears or what the deferred payments look like, and then how we can get you back in front. Banks will it seems like banks will accept refinances even though a loan was deferred, as long as clients are back in the positive and they're back to full-time income and everything sort of stacks up again. Obviously, we're not at the end of that deferment period yet, so we don't know how it looks like with refinances yet. However, we think that banks, as long as you're back in, as long as you've caught up and you're back in the positive, banks are going to be okay with it. You need to start planning now. If you want to do something in 6 months' time, we need to start planning now. It's very important. If we have to show 6-month home loan statements, we want to show the bank that you've managed to get back into the positive. That's very important. So anything you're doing now with a deferred home loan, start planning and start seeing what we can do to get you back there. Like I said, your mortgage broker, any financial advisor. If you have a home on a deferred payment, but we want to use that home as security for a new purchase, then we need to focus on that deferred home loan and get that back to positive. So there's a few things there with the deferred payments. But yeah, it's just reach out. Always just reach out, and then we can put you into the right bank as well. Policy updates, really important. Like I said, changing all the time, but these are the main ones at the moment. The banks are shading. Actually, some banks aren't even using bonus or commission structures. Others are shading at a high percentage. So that obviously affects servicing, which is how much the bank will do. A higher percentage on rental income. So some banks have now bumped that up to 70%. So they will shade that back 70%, effectively allowing you to borrow less. So we just need to make sure we're going to the right bank if we need to be borrowing more. Certain industries are sort of on hold with some lenders. So some lenders will not touch anybody in hospitality, retail or aviation. They won't even look at an application. They are on hold. So when it comes to certain sectors, we need to be really mindful that we are sending applications to the right banks Again, that's where your broker comes into it. With 50 banks, they're going to know exactly where to send your application to ensure that you get approval. We've had some air hostesses who have a return to work date. So they actually have a letter stating when they're going back to work. Some banks will accept that, whereas other banks won't even look at it. So we need to be really clear about that as well. Employment checks are being verified maybe 2 or 3 times. So just phone calls to HR, making sure that you actually work there. That's really important. Some lenders are not doing cash outs. Others don't care. They'll do cash outs up to 80%. That's a big one if you're looking at cashing out for another purchase. We just need to make sure it's the right bank. And obviously ID verification. So we're doing a lot of Zoom verifications, using a lot of the new IDU apps. And the banks will be accepting that over face-to-face. That's a big change as well. And then there's lots of questions about COVID and how COVID has affected income, work hours, and how it might affect it in the future. So we're having lots of conversations with our clients just to make sure that they're not affected by COVID. And if they are, what the plan is in 3 to 6 to 12 months' time. And the banks are generally happy if they've got commentary around what's happening. Lending update, really important. We still have lots of great cashback offers. Cashbacks cover refinance costs, which are bank and government fees, and then it's just free money. Free money, cheaper rate, probably a better product or structure. These cashbacks for refinances are usually a no-brainer. Interest rates are the lowest we have ever seen. We've got variable owner OC, P&I at 2.64%. We've got some fixed rates at 2.09. 2-year fixed, it's just the lowest we've ever seen. We could potentially wipe up to 2% off somebody's home loan. Investment rates 3.06 and fixed rates 2.49. At this current time, over the last few months, we as a company believe that refinances are the best strategy. Refinances, like I said before, allow you to find a better rate, but also restructure the loan if needed, release money if needed, set portions to interest only, help with cash flow. Or there's so many benefits to refinance that that is the first thing we speak to our clients about. That is it today. I guess a few things that Mary Chris spoke about in regards to credit cards and personal loans. So as a guide, if you have a credit card, let's say you have $10,000 and you never use it. So you've just got a credit card, sits there, never use it. It's a emergency. That credit card of $10,000 has the ability to reduce your borrowing capacity, so how much the bank will lend you, by about $70,000. So by having a credit card that you never use, it's just there in case you need it, it will actually mean you can't borrow as much money. So when we talk about credit cards, personal loans, car loans, where you can reduce that as much as possible, that's the ideal. If you need your credit card and you use it all the time, but you might only spend $5,000 or $6,000 per month on the credit card, reducing it from $10,000 to $7,000 is better than keeping it at $10,000. So these are all really handy things when it gets down to having to borrow more funds and more funds. The lower your liabilities are, the higher your borrowing capacity will be. And that is with really credit cards at the moment. We're seeing a lot of... Are you there?
Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Steph.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. I have a question.
Sure.
Regarding the one you said a while back, if you access your super.
Yes.
I actually did access my super because I've got reason for that. I'm not in financial hardship or whatever.
Yep.
But just because my ex-husband and I parted ways. We sold the house.
Yes.
Until now, yeah. Until now, the house is no. I mean, the money is still with my solicitor.
Yep.
And then he is trying to go after my super as well. So my friend said, better access your
Yeah.
rather than him having everything.
Yeah, understand.
That's what I did. So will it affect? Because the money is just in it's not in my account. I'm holding it like a liquid cash in the house because I don't want him to find out that I still got money.
Yeah, understand. So look, some banks are definitely accepting that income, the super income has been taken out. Some banks are definitely accepting it. You're certainly not at a dead end. However, we need to be really careful with what bank we choose. And then we just have commentary. I mean, your commentary sounds legit. Like that sounds exactly what has happened. There's a reason for it. We can back it up with your income, your pay slips. So if you put commentary around it and we show the bank, hey,
sorry, I lost my signal. Sorry for a bit because I'm driving. Sorry. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Could you repeat what you said? Sorry, love.
Yeah, that's okay. So some banks are still accepting it if you have taken it out of your super. They will want to understand why. So we just have commentary around why it was taken out, the reasons for it. And as long as we can still evidence your income and your pay slips and your group certificate, then we should have a strong application for the bank.
Okay. So because there's like this coming July 1, I was like, I am going to access this again because just because for the same reason.
For the same reason. If you're planning on purchasing soon or trying to get some lending soon, certainly speak to either myself or your broker and just understand what banks will accept it, how they want it to look, how they want the narrative to read, and then you can go ahead and do it. But you need a plan first.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I went to Marie Chris last Sunday I spoke to Marie Chris and I've actually told her these things. And it's just that because I have a new partner for over a year now and we're starting to build our own home. So I'm not sure if are we on the right track or not because of this I've accessed my super.
Understand. Do you want me to? I can give you a call tomorrow and I can go through the specifics with you and tell you how the bank will look at it, what we will need, and if that stacks up. How does that sound?
Okay, that would be great. Perfect.
Boris will give me all your information. I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Okay then. Just get my number from Marie Chris.
Marie Chris, yep, perfect.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thanks,
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marie Chris.
Any other questions? No.
Hello, Steph.
Hello. Who is there?
It's me, Joseph Oyoko.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
It's good. Yes, there you are. How can I help?
Yeah, I was meeting Marie Chris the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to understand more because now I just found out your live by now, but I want to ask because I have a car loan, only 1 year left.
Yep.
So, is there any problem if with myself or that car loan? Is there any problem with it?
Having a car loan and having and getting new lending?
Yeah, because I am a new home.
First home buyer.
Yeah, first home buyer.
Okay, so having a car loan as a first home buyer is completely okay not a problem, as long as you've always kept up with your repayments and you haven't missed anything. So we need to
Yeah.
see that conduct is perfect.
Yeah.
Yep, so as long as conduct is perfect, what you're demonstrating to the bank that you can actually pay back a loan. So that's always a positive.
Yeah.
Only thing where it might affect you is how much money you can actually borrow from the bank.
Okay.
And every bank is different. Every calculation is different. So I'd have to run figures for you. That would be the only thing that will be a hiccup. But if you are paying back your car loan and you've shown that you've been able to pay back over the whole period that you've had the loan, that's always a positive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What I can do, SFO, is actually give you Stephanie's phone number and you can talk to her in detail.
Definitely.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So guys, we've got a couple of extra speakers who have wanting to share some information. So look, and first of all, Stephanie, thank you. That was amazing. I really like the way you broke that down. And in essence, I think what you've also done is you've given hope to some people or a lot of people who in their mind might be thinking, am I right? Am I doing the right thing? Because I felt like even afterwards, even though we're around this every single day and this is something we live and breathe, even afterwards I was like, you know what? I really do feel like I should get in on the market on this. And so, yeah, obviously the presentation went really well for us and I do appreciate that.
Thanks, Boris.
There's going to be some Q&A coming up now. Just before that, we've got a couple of speakers who are part of our community that would like to share a bit. So, Andrea, if you can get yourself ready. Andrea and Martin are on this live stream today. They're from Tickbox Conveyancing and they've got some really important messages to share. So, Andrea, I'm just going to chuck you on now. So I'm just going to unmute you if I muted.
Thank you, Boris. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thanks for having us, including us in this webinar. Obviously, lots of information. It's very daunting when you're a first home buyer as well. So it's fantastic that everyone's super engaged and just asking all the questions. I'll probably just get Martin to have a little bit of a just an overview of what we're seeing at the moment in the market with first home buyers, what it is that we're doing, and why Tickbox, I guess. So, Martin.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Martin Galea, and I'm the principal of Tickbox Conveyancing. And believe it or not, I've been in the conveyancing space for 37 years now. I started when I was about 5, so if you do the maths, I'm a lot younger than what I look. It's interesting to hear all the commentary tonight and that sense of fear and excitement all in the one space. Guys, I can go just quickly, just from a historical perspective. Somebody, I think it might have been you, Boris, raised about the GFC, or it might have been Marie-Chris. I actually remember the late 80s, early 90s, where interest rates were actually 16.5%, 17%, and they were really scary times. But my conveyancing career over that whole 37-year period has led me to believe very strongly that the property market and the professionals around the property market have become increasingly important. There was a time back in the 80s and 90s where there was no such assistance, and people were buying property really just on a whim or on a say-so from their parents and the like. Now there's some real assistance around. You know, the thoughts of a mortgage broker back in the 80s and 90s was unheard of. Property advisory groups that, you know, were held accountable as they are now from a financial advice perspective make a huge difference to the professionalism around your ability to buy property. As a first home buyer in particular, it's very important that you choose wisely when it comes to your advisors, and that might be a question that you ask yourself: how do I choose wisely? Well, you need to ask a lot of questions, and you need to feel convinced that the people that you're seeking advice from invested in what they do, that they've got a certain passion and extreme care for their clientele. I can tell you that I have clients that buy properties over $15 million, and I have clients that buy properties at $250,000. I can assure you from the bottom of my heart that all of them are as important as each other. Just a bit about the conveyancing process, so everybody has a reasonable understanding. Conveyancers are usually called into the pipeline of events, if you like, once you have established what you can afford and what entitlements you may have on hand, as in stamp duty exemptions and concessions and the like. And you've also selected the property, or pretty much what property you want to buy, and then a conveyancer usually comes called into action. It's important that you do not sign any contracts without getting advice prior to signing. I'm talking land contracts. If you're going to build, it's good to get some advice on the building contracts, even though they are predominantly plain English. But the land contracts and the Section 32 statements are extremely important. We have a number of case studies recently where we can proudly say that we've saved our clients quite a bit of money on the land tax front. So not only when you buy property from a vendor, the land tax is an item that's an adjustable item, just like council rates and water rates, and sometimes you can get caught having to pay for land tax that wasn't expected, and they can be quite a few $1,000s. So for the sake of a couple of lines in the form of a special condition in the contract, we could save you a lot of money, much more than probably what even our fees are. So the only advice I can give you from what I've heard tonight is invest. Don't look at the professionals around you as being an expense. Look at them as being an investment to assist you with the process, and ask plenty of questions. There are no silly questions. You shouldn't feel intimidated, and you should ensure that you're getting advice on all fronts from a professional that's got plenty of experience, can demonstrate they know exactly what they're talking about, and have got the patience to give you some security in knowing that your questions are all being answered and able to be answered thoroughly. That's it from me.
So through the chat box, it's been really active tonight, and I really love it. And also, Martin, thank you so much for sharing there. I think it's been now 3 times now I've been involved in different events where Martin and Andrew, actually it's 4 times now that I've had these guys talk, and these guys are actually absolute ultra pro experts at what they do. So yeah, conveyancing is a major portion of what's going to happen, whether or not you get into the property and ticking all of the right, as they say, tick box conveyancing. So yeah, when you get to that stage of the process, absolutely look these guys up. So if you guys want to chuck your an email address into the comments, so that way everyone here can have access to you guys directly, that'd be great. Look, there's one of the speakers coming up. His name's Gagan. Gagan's from Renaissance Partners, and yeah, he's just got a few words he just wanted to share. So I'm just going to chuck Gagan on, and then we'll have a couple of questions through Jody and Shree coming up after this. So Gagan, I'm just going to unmute you and see how that goes. Yep, go far away.
Thanks, Boris. I'll just quickly introduce myself. So I'm an accountant, and Boris invited me to this group because he just thought probably may be able to provide value to some of his clients. Now, I guess this session is more targeted towards the 25K grant, which is available to the owner buyers. As an accountant, maybe where we can help is more if there are investors in this webinar and looking to invest in the property. It'll be a good idea to probably discuss the best structures for buying an investment property. and it would be a good idea to actually talk to your accountants about that. So I just thought I would share that with the group here.
So I'm going to throw to the Q&A. So with the Q&A, there's one person in particular who, Jody, she's got a question, but she's basically not able to articulate. So I'm just going to ask it on her behalf. So this goes out to anyone at all who's on here right now who can provide some commentary around this. So she's got funds for about half. I actually read it word for word. We've got the funds for down, but half of it has just been transferred to our account. Would that affect our mortgage application? Now, what that in particular could be is that funds in relation to. So, Jody, I'll get you to type a message here. Is that funds in relation to pulling out of your superannuation, or is it something where you've sold something and you've been able to get it? So if you can just, okay, so yeah, Jody's just commented, it's come from savings. So she just wrote that as a last message at the bottom there.
That come from savings. Okay, so the bank will accept personal savings as well as a gift. A gift is always acceptable by the bank for lending options. However, the gift needs to come with a stat deck to state that it is a gift and it is non-refundable. So that is a bank policy towards gifts. So it will not affect the application. However, you will need to, 1, evidence your own savings, and 2, evidence a gift letter. And we have the template for that. We will tell you what to say in it. There is a template, but it won't affect your application, no.
Thanks. That's great. We now have Shri. So Shri, I'm going to unmute you if you just wanted to. Oh, Shri's gone missing. Shri, want to ask a question? Oh, there you are. Let's go to here. Shri, I can find. Well, Shri's not showing. Shri, do you want to jump on your video, or you don't, or you want to hide behind the black screen?
Hi. Is my audio? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes.
I think there's some problem with the video, but I'll just go ahead with the audio for now. My question is for Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. We are looking into options of refinancing, as you said. I mean, at this point,
Yes.
because of the interest rates, refinancing is the best strategy. So we are kind of evaluating that options. So would you be the right person to guide us, or can we have some time with you? Probably. How?
Yeah, definitely. So the majority of my business is actually our existing client base, and what that simply means is I do all the refinances, refinance, equity release, new purchases, investment purchases. I do all of that, so I can definitely help you with the refinance and just making sure that we're putting you in the right lender. Because like I said before, if they've got really good rates, they may not be the right lender, or they might have a really good cashback offer, might not be the right lender. So you need to look at the options. I can certainly help you with that.
Yeah. So shall we block some time with you, or?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
We've got your email there, so that's great. We'll get Stephanie to get in touch with you. She's really approachable. Look, this is going to sound strange, but when I call her, she answers her phone. I don't know if that means that, that she just loves me in particular, but listen, there's other people you call, they don't answer their phone, or they think they're too busy. And even if she is busy, she'll at least answer her phone and speak to you. So, yeah, I mean, as the smallest gesture, at least she wants to communicate with you, because it is a busy time right now for brokers.
Thanks, Boris.
She'll definitely clear a schedule and make some time to have a chat with
Boris.
you.
That's actually my number 1 rule, Boris, is to answer my phone.
Love it. Absolutely love that.
Number 1 rule. So, yeah, I'll definitely answer.
Okay, great. So, look,
No, that's good. If Stephanie is not reachable, then I'll catch hold of Boris. Anyways.
And then I'll call Stephanie for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Boris.
All good. Hey, guys, more questions. So, look, it's been going really good so far, and been, I guess, getting through a bit of content, but there's a lot of other experts that are available here. Obviously, there's some people here who are looking at buying some properties. I know, for example, Sebastian, he's written me a private message. Sorry to put you on the spot there, mate. But Sebastian, did you want to jump on? Did you have any questions? Was there anything you want to share? Is there anything that's important for you to find out? Because I know yourself and your partner are in a different position right now where you are looking at doing something. But yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to jump on. Anyone else, because I can see some videos, just put your hand up if you've got a question. I'll unmute you and you guys can have a chat. Does anyone want to ask anything?
I'm all good, Boris. I think this webinar helped me out quite a bit for that. So I'll get in touch with Stephanie as well by text, and then we'll discuss some few options. And then Boris, I'll probably come in the office and speak to you a couple of options as well. But as a first home buyer, it's really helped me with some information.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, like this is the sort of feedback I've been getting. I've been obviously part of this. I haven't seen so much interaction before. I mean, I've been part of these sort of ones before. My phone's exploded with the amount of people that are talking, and so yeah, I just wanted to put that all together. I've got one last person who wants to jump on now. His name's Partha. Partha is going to be a guest speaker. I'm just letting you know now. He's going to present something that I find really fascinating and something I know nothing about. I have no idea how to trade on the stock market, but right now is a really awesome opportunity for it. I want to give Partha the spotlight right now, just for him to I guess, give you an opportunity to hear a little bit about what he does, because it's something that we're going to lead into. We're going to be promoting him as part of our next live stream that's on the 1st of July. So for everyone here today, you guys are all invited to join us. We are doing this fortnightly. I've mentioned that before. We love doing this. This isn't giving up a Wednesday night. This gives us a chance to really connect the community together. We want you guys to be part of this and bring your friends along. Bring some family along, anyone that you think would benefit from this sort of information. Because I learned, and I know Mary Chris, for example, learned from doing exactly what we're doing right now, from learning from their peers around them. Stop reading the newspapers. Unless it's the Financial Review, stop reading the newspaper. It's got no information in there that's going to help your life. Hear from actual experts who are in the business doing it right now. This is how you're going to learn. So that's why we're here. And obviously, we want to help everyone as much as we can, and we invite you to bring people along. So I'm going to unmute now, Partha, if you're available there. You haven't got your video showing, but if you could, it'd be awesome.
Thanks, Boris. Thanks, Mary Chris. Wonderful to have you all in this session. And there are wonderful speakers involved: Martin, Mary Chris, and Stephen, and yourself, Boris. I'm using a desktop, so sorry for the video. And if you can allow me to share my screen, or can I share my screen? It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to make you the host, and then that'll allow you. Okay, you are now the host. At the top of the screen, you'll now see a little option that says share screen.
Fantastic. So, pardon me, I have 8 screens. So let me share the first one. What can you see? Can you see our website? So learn how to trade, how to earn. Can you?
Yep.
Fantastic. And can you hear me all?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we actually run a trader development facility at Melbourne with 30 years of experience in trading. We develop traders to be able to trade asset classes. Actually, property is fantastic. But apart from properties, we also have other asset classes, for example, Forex, commodities, shares, bonds, indices, and even cryptocurrencies. We at NB Financials actually trade for a living, and many of our clients have taken up this as a full-time profession. And we are actually, others are also doing it for secondary income. So in nutshell, what we do, we run one-on-one trading mentoring sessions, online and remote. Why we do it? We train clients to trade to generate mainstream or passive income, also to generate trading awareness and to secure the future. How do we do it? We do it through our proprietary trading strategies. Apart from that, we actually provide more than 18 different ways to assist you to move in different next level of trading. We have dedicated one-on-one coaching for in-house or remote. We also run monthly classes, and we'll guide you to take advantage of our price action insights, and we'll provide written down course material. As you can see, we trade commodities, spot gold, rough rice, orange juice, and in shares, for example, Tesla, Alphabet, that is Google, Goldman Sachs, and Forex, Aussie, Euro, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So everything we do is written down. For example, if we go to trading instruction-based discussion in commodity trading, you will see that the commodity trading is broken down into modules and different units. Each module, there are 5 modules in it. For example, if I go to module 3, there will be having different units in it, and each unit will be subdivided into specific discussions on that. We provide you plenty of real market examples. So for example, just to show you one example in front of you, because I'll not be taking more than 10 minutes. So for example, in front of us is Apple, and our signal, our strategy is telling us to buy apples. Actually, I'll show you from before COVID. COVID happens on 22nd. COVID happens globally on 22nd of February, and our signal for Apple came on 24th of February to go short. We are very visual, so we actually symbolizes red histogram for selling. And after COVID, we are buying Apple from 25th of March, as you can see here, and this one on 8th of April, and again on 27th of April, and so on and so forth. So it is as simple as that. We have students from 16 years to 86 years, so we have made it very simple, and that's what we discuss in our members portal here. We'll also mentor you through self-assessment task. Each unit and each pages would be having some self-assessment task. You have to do that, you have to practice it and send it back to us, so that we can assess it and know that you have understood what we have taught. And you'll be able to do multiple time frame based trading. As you saw, this is 4-hour trading, 12-hour, 48-hour, and so on and so forth. Will help you to develop mental skill sets that is extremely important, required for trading, and you'll get in instruction based discussions on that also, on how to actually set our mental skills right for trading. We'll guide you to actually identify the high probability trade setups, because the trade setups will come and go. For example, the Apple was there and Tesla is in front of you. We'll actually tell you which are the highest probability trade setups, so that you can be benefited from that, and you'll understand the mathematical aspects of trading. We'll discuss that. And from time to time, we give trade ideas. For example, when to buy, when to sell sterling or Aussie or ASX, for example. And these are the open and closed positions, and the effect of that is captured in the trade outcome. So if you go to the trade outcome section, it will tell you, after obviously you agree to our risk management and all those things, you'll see that recently we have got 303 pips for sterling, and ASX, our Australian stock exchange, we actually got 100 pips. So if you are putting $10 a pip, this 303 and this 100 actually will give you $3,030 and $1,000, so on and so forth. So just to show you what in a cumulative term, how does it look like? It will look like for like this. For last 4 years we're doing, and we have given trade ideas from starting from December 2016. As you saw here, you can scroll down to go down to 2016, and in that 39 months we have generated 35 out of 39 months positive results. As you can see, I think that's a good result. And 4 out of 39 months we have negative. So we had one in November 2017 in which we got minus 48 points, and July 2018 minus 302 points, something like that. And in total we got 31,586 points from our trade ideas, which is in front of you. And apart from that, we have the trader discussion breakout room, in which we discuss what we are going to cover and answer all questions from the clients. And also we have trading videos. So apart from this temple trade ideas, in the traders breakout room will help you to plan your journals, and trading videos will consolidate your learning. And we post a regular blog post in the meantime, you can see our Google reviews. If you want to, you can go to our website. It is there, what our clients are saying. And we provide, the most important thing is, apart from going through all these things, is whatever we trade, we capture it. We capture it and discuss it. So no signal or nothing is missing out of our setups. Everything is transparent. So everything is transparent. So for example, if you are buying or selling gold, you'll come to know where we are buying and where we are selling, and why we are buying and why we are selling, so on and so forth, with a commentary attached to it. Yeah. So, and we'll also of course answer all your questions, and you'll have access to our principal trader over phone, email, online, and chat. and so on and so forth. I think it's a small, if you allow me, I can talk for 30 days non-stop. But anyway, so if you have any questions, thanks Boris for introducing me. If you have any questions, please post on the chat section. Thanks again. Thanks, Marisha. I can see you clapping.
Hi, I just have a bit of a question with NP Financials.
Yeah.
Yeah, does it mean that they teach and coach people who wants to learn how to trade?
Yes, we do actually.
Okay, so are you based on in Melbourne?
We are in Melbourne at Glen Waverley, Wheelers Hill, Glen Waverley. This is our map.
Okay, so I might just get in touch with you privately then.
Absolutely, not a problem. May I know whom I'm talking to?
This is Heidi Florendo.
Hi, Edie. Thanks for your question.
Yeah. Okay, so if I Google your number, will it be in Google NP Financials?
Yeah, you just type NP Financials with an S at the end, and you will come to know everything about us.
Okay, so I'll get your number there. So I'll just get in touch with you tomorrow then.
Yeah, not a problem. It's in our about us or contact us page as well. Thanks, Heidi.
We can also pass Heidi's details on to you too.
Thanks, Ethan. You are a gem of a person, Mary Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary Chris.
Can I get a hands up if you can hear me? All right, we're back and we're live. I was just talking to myself before. That's great. Andrea, welcome back. Yeah, so just wanted to reiterate again with Partha. He's going to be presenting on July 1st. Look, as part of everything that we do, we're about wealth creation. We want to help you to live the life of your dreams and to live a life of freedom. The only way that that's going to happen is if we can't be narrow-minded and think that it's only property or that we're going to get a good job or only business. There's so many different ways to create wealth, and that's why I thought bringing Partha into here today, but also just to talk about him coming on in a couple of weeks' time. He will do a full presentation. I've obviously had dealings with him in the past, and I'm learning so much every time. Even if you just grab something from that and feel like you can do something from it, it's going to be worth your while. So July 1st, we'll be doing a next live stream. Partha will be part of that. There'll always be a finance element. So we all know finance is it's the most crucial part of it. I mean, at the end of the day, we can find the most amazing property. This property can be in the best location, the best price, but if the bank says no, you're getting nothing. Guess what? So look, at the end of the day, that's why there's always that element, and it's always making sure that you always consult with experts. We've got financial planners, accountants, business brokers if you're selling your business, and obviously mortgage brokers are there. They're there to help you to make sure that you can achieve your dreams. Only speak to experts from here on out. If you're getting free advice from your uncle or your brother-in-law, I'm sorry, but their circumstances are different to yours. Seek the experts and seek the best ones out there for you, because everyone's going to have an opinion on it. But also remember that what you found out 30 days ago, especially in an environment like now, it changes. So your particular circumstances might have changed. The bank might have changed. What can happen out in the world can change so quickly. So make sure it's not sit on your hands and wait for something. Make sure that when you get the information, if it's time's right, take action. That's the main thing that I can sort of give you from that. And that's how we've been operating for. I've got a question here in the chat box. This one's from Jeremy. So he's basically asking, as a first home buyer, what should my first step be to make sure I'm eligible for these government grants? So that's an open forum question. So I'll throw that out to anyone who wants to put their hand up, unmute yourself, jump in. So I'll repeat that question again in case you don't hear it. As a first home buyer, what should my first step be to make sure I'm eligible for these government grants?
Boris, I'll take that one, and it will probably help with Martin as well. Obviously, you need to actually make sure that we can get funding from the bank for you, Jeremy. So you need to make sure that you actually stack up within bank policy, that we can actually get you funds. And then I guess it's working a little bit backwards, making sure, speak to a conveyance, make sure you actually are a first-home buyer, you've never owned property before, tick off all those boxes. And then we can work backwards and say, okay, so you can borrow this much, this is what the bank will lend you, this is what the grant is, this is how much the purchase price will be, and then you can sort of work that all together.
Yeah, if I can just
jump in, Martin.
You're spot on. So, Jeremy, you could go to a conveyancer or you could go to a broker, but I would go to the broker because they'll have a holistic view on your financial position and the like, or they'll at least get enough information to do that. We'll come in to just ensure that the nitty-gritties of qualification for the exemptions or concessions that are available, actually you fit the criteria, because what the subheadings say and what the nitty-gritty underneath that says can be interpreted differently. So just need to do a thorough check, and that's why I keep saying make sure you've got the right professionals around you, and that it's that you choose wisely.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Fantastic. So look, I did promise you guys a 90-minute session. This has definitely exceeded it. We did start a few minutes late while people were coming on, and I do apologise for some of those that were stuck in the waiting room. There's definitely a bunch of people who have messaged that weren't able to get on. I will fix the technical difficulties for next time, so you guys can just jump on. I appreciate everyone's support. Look, it's a journey for us. Murray, Chris and I, we're in the trenches every single day. We work as hard as we can to make sure we can bring you the best information. We're not sitting back thinking that what we once found out, a while ago is going to be the best information. We're always making sure we're bringing you the best that we can. These will grow. Part of this is also live events that we do. So because of COVID, obviously we're not allowed anyone in a room, but as soon as the restrictions are lifted, behind me here to my left is it's a new office that we've taken out specifically so that we can run events. And those events, we're happy to have 15, 20 people join us like we normally used to before we were doing live streams. And they're a great way to connect with people, network with people. We'll shout you some food and some drinks and enjoy yourself an afternoon. We usually do it on a Sunday. Bring your kids if you like, and obviously just get to learning something new that's really valuable for your future. Because this sort of information can set you up forever. We're not giving you information of stuff that's potentially good or risky. We only want to give you what's actually going to help you, and that's why it's important. So look, we appreciate the engagement. There's been absolutely smashed with comments, questions, my phone being going crazy. I absolutely love it. So I thank you so much, everyone here. I want to give an absolute round. I'm going to unmute you girls. You guys have been absolute stellar superstars tonight. But Stephanie and Murray, Chris, you girls have been amazing. I'm so thankful for your input tonight, Stephanie.
Stephanie, that was awesome. I'm still learning too. So I actually took notes down when you were talking. So it was such a great presentation.
Perfect.
It was really
You're more than welcome. Happy to help.
Well, thank you.
If anyone has any last minute questions, any burning desires before we jump off, I'm glad that literally everyone stuck with us the entire way through. So it must have been pretty valuable content. I can see Jeremy driving home now. Gagan, thank you so much for jumping on with that. Andrea, Martin, pleasure as always. Atik, absolutely love you guys. And Pramal, obviously, couldn't do it without you guys. So appreciate everything you guys have offered for us. And Partha, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. To the rest of our guests and Barry as well, we really appreciate everyone joining us today. And I'll put together the replay for you guys. That'll happen over the next few days, if not early next week. Depends on how much time we've got. And Stephanie's also promised to share some of the slides as well. So that'll be great. But yeah, look, appreciate everything. We're definitely looking forward to the next one. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye, team.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.